am
Yeah.
on with Mark Kohl. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Cinematographer,
we're already getting into
producer,
it.
entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm just jumping right in. Saves
Yeah,
on
man.
editing. How are
AI,
you?
baby. Good. I mean, how could I be bad here?
Just for anybody watching, I don't know who watches podcasts on YouTube, but apparently it's a big thing. Um, if you're listening on wherever you listen to your podcast, Mark Cole has been on the show before. It's been a few years, but you're in Topanga Canyon, which is like home of the hippie movement in Los Angeles, and you've got an honest to goodness yurt behind you.
Yeah. Just need to
You're
show.
vibrating at 400. What's that love frequency?
Love is 528.
528.
Yeah, but
You're
there's
vibrating.
432. I think you're thinking of 432, which is the Earth. So,
So tell us about that.
what about frequencies?
Yeah, frequencies.
Well, there's all kinds of them.
Isn't that
You
the
know,
name of your company?
yes, and
Well, I thought it was.
there's a funny story behind it, behind how the name came about. But yeah, it wasn't just a. By the way, Topanga is now elevated to high-end hippies, just so you know. So
Yeah,
it's not just
it's not run of the
hippie.
mill hippie
It's not
or
couch surfer hippies. Yeah,
right. It's not to be confused with a Venice Beach hippie.
yeah. Um, no, I mean frequency. I mean, the universe is built out of frequencies. Everything is vibrating. One of the universal laws of Hermeticism, if you will, is everything is frequency. Everything is moving. So even though we see matter, whatever we see that we think is solid, it's actually vibrating very quickly, so fast that we can't really put our finger through it, or we can stand
It's like
on it.
"Grr."
Well, think of a prop propeller on an airplane, right? Once it gets going so fast, you can't throw an egg through it, right? So it becomes solid at some point. So yeah, and then of course the body of 30 trillion some cells, every one of them is electromagnetic and vibrating in every organ, and our thoughts are different frequencies now. There's technology. Actually, we have some of it that can measure the frequencies of your thoughts, your emotions, all of that. Yeah.
Oh wow, I
Yeah,
didn't know
very
that.
accurately. So yeah, so our company is based. We grow mushrooms, but we can get into that however you want to get into that. But yeah, we grow them in a sound chamber of chanting and different sounds of nature, different cymatics.
What about what are cymatics?
Cymatics is the visual representation of sound. So I don't know if you've ever seen
Oh, I
a
love
bowl of.
that stuff.
Yeah, right. Because there is very distinct patterns. We call them sacred geometry in nature everywhere. And when you vibrate things at a certain frequency, chaos goes into a very cohesive pattern
Hmm.
known as sacred geometry, right?
I've seen like sand on a
Right.
stretch of rubber or something, and
Hmm.
or a speaker, and they play sounds, and they make perfectly symmetrical geometric shapes.
Yep, that's called sacred geometry. Yep.
Sacred geometry. Wow, we've learned something here in the first couple minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's real. It really is real. Yeah.
So you were on this podcast. I'm going to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago,
I think it was
mid
audio
pandemic.
only though. It was
It was
audio
audio
only.
only, and I
Yeah.
think the majority of people are audio only still. Um, and I looked it up this morning. 8 years ago, actress Nia Peebles was on the show, which was entitled "The Frequency of Love," because
Mm.
she talked about the vibrations just between people, and how to get in touch with yourself and the universe. So this could be a very trippy episode. And you and I are friends, Mark. So we chatted like a week or so ago, and I wanted to make this episode relevant to filmmakers, which you're a filmmaker,
Yep.
and I want to expose them to the benefits of mushrooms. And to be clear, we're talking about psychedelic mushrooms.
Yes, we are.
Somebody pulled. It's happened twice. Once last week, somebody visited my set And they just said, "Yeah, I've been microdosing." Like, I think I mentioned the Magic Mind, which is not psychedelic mushrooms. It's like lion's mane mixed in with ashwagandha and all these nootropics. And you can use the code Brady20 to save 20% on a subscription. With frequency mushrooms, you have and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you do have a like various doses of
Hmm.
intensity. Like, I like these little capsules that you take per your weight that are more of a social lubricant,
Hmm.
right? Better than a glass of scotch. I mean, it's
Yes, for
so much
sure.
better. Alcohol's a depressant.
Yeah.
Mushrooms are a accelerant. No, I don't know the
Y-
terms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I don't know if you had a chance to look at that little documentary series they did.
A little
Somebody
bit,
did on
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was so the scotch in the filmmaking world is what actually took me out. Well, more like vodka. But I suffered severely from alcoholism. I have a 37-year career of doing tons of stuff, all over IMDb, hundreds of TV shows, thousands of commercials, whatever. I got kind of caught up in the whole thing of, filmmaking and film. I think, the creative mind for sure suffers more from, I don't want to say mental illness, but we suffer, from, overthinking.
Hmm.
We're very special. And
That's
it's,
the monkey mind, isn't it?
yeah, but that's what makes us genius. The
Right.
genius mind, because it doesn't fit into what we call normal. By the way, schizophrenia and other what we deem mental illnesses now used to be revered in societies because they were the geniuses. They were the ones that could tap into other realms and, the mystical mind kind of thing. Now we drug them and put them into, mental
Right.
institutions.
We sedate them to
Yeah,
quell that very thing that taps into artistry, creativity.
correct. Yes, yes, and that's a real shame. But we work with a lot of those people, by the way, and
Mhm.
because I think deep down, most of us, you and on this call, we have to have that mind to have our juices flowing, right? Getting in flow state. It's super important for creative.
I it sounds like just a buzzword, but I know when I'm in flow state, like I'm in my
Yes,
element
yes,
and I'm serving my purpose on this planet. Like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm not a
that's right,
point guard. I'm not a bricklayer. And I
right.
applaud both those things. I'm a comedy director. Oh, when I'm doing comedy and on set or prepping, it's
Yep.
such a buzz to reach that flow state. And so anything that can help me do that, I'm all for. I used to think it was marijuana, and I think it really was marijuana for many years until whether it was my metabolism or the pot got too strong or a combination of both, the pot didn't work anymore.
There's actually a great book called Stealing Fire. I don't know if you've ever read
Hmm.
it, but they talk about that a lot, and they
Just
compare like
assume I've read nothing, Mark. I'm
what's
I'm a
that?
terrible I'm a
Me
terrible
too.
reader.
Me too.
Just
Me too.
assume
I
I've read
listen.
nothing you're going to mention. Yeah,
Well, I don't read. I listen. Thank God for audiobooks
books on tape. Yeah.
and YouTube. But anyway, basically, so you've gotten very far because most people don't know their purpose,
Yep.
right? So finding purpose
Ikigai.
is a big deal. Is a big part of what we do here. Is in the deep dive doses, and I'll talk about dosing in a second. But finding like why are you here? Why did God give you
Hmm.
this gift of life, right? It's not to just run around making money necessarily. And these are constructs created by society and a capitalistic society. We're designed to just make money, buy shit we don't need with money we don't have, right? And that creates a lot of misery, right? So the whole system's designed for misery. So now we're running around in this new age of consciousness known as the Aquarian age, which is kind of coming back to basics, coming back to communities, coming back to basically tribalism and finding purpose. And inside that, in the community is, the archetypes. You have the tent maker, you have the entertainer, you have the hunter, the cook, or whatever. And together, the community survives. No one individual live survives out in nature, right? We have to we have to work together. So, so by finding purpose, I always say to people, just do you know why you're getting out of bed in the morning? Like, why are you getting out of bed in the morning? And if you can answer that with passion, then you're there. There is no such thing as work, because we're fulfilling what we are here to do, and that is getting in the flow state, right? So what happens is the mind is not your friend, right? It's a very tricky, very cunning thing. It tries to take you off your purpose, the ego, right? And this is what we fight. We fight overthinking. We fight these thoughts.
I call
So,
it the monkey brain, which brings in self doubt,
correct.
imposter syndrome,
Yep.
and I think you're referring to the mind as the ego and the monkey brain,
It's
and
all of it.
then I'll say that the intellect is what keeps us sane and on the straight path.
Well, there's
Is
a
that, am
difference.
I getting?
There's a difference. It's semantics really, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a difference between intellect and intelligence, right? So intellect is usually things that we have learned. That means read, studied, memorized. And our society, again, we train people to test well. That doesn't mean they know what they're doing,
Sure.
right? So intelligence is that instinct, is that innate thing that you have, that I have, that people say, how do you do what you do? And I can honestly answer, I don't know. I just do, right? So the Buddhists have a great example of it. It's called knowing, by the way, gnosis in Greek. They say, I know how to open and close my hand. Can I tell you how to open and close my hand? I cannot, but I know, right? So this is what we do in the psychedelic realm is we stop thought. So the thoughts that are coming in, we stop them. So that's how you get into flow state. Because when you and I are on set, I'm so mesmerized, I'm in a trance. You are as well.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what time it is. We don't even know anything. We just know we see the next shot. We see the actors, we feel it. We know where to put the camera. You know exactly what to say. But that's an instinct. That's getting in flow, and that's something you cannot teach, right? That's something you have to experience.
Sure, that's
And
the 10,000 hours that people talk about.
you can
Although,
still do that. You can still do that. I mean, I have fired more cameramen in my career that have 50,000 hours, but they don't have instinct. They
sure,
still
it's not a
can't see it
guarantee.
coming. Right. They still can't feel it coming because it's a sense of we don't know, right?
Well, the interesting thing is, it's hard unless you're like a solo painter or when you're writing, you can get there into flow state. With filmmaking being a team sport, the the leader has to be in flow state, and that is elevated almost like feeding itself when the other teammates are on point too. I call it the no look pass. If I not even talk to you, and you've DP'd on shoots for me quite
Yeah.
successfully. We did a couple of gigs.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I don't have to say what the next shot is, or that's what the great thing about a DP director relationship is. Without saying, you're already thinking ahead, and you're in your flow state.
Correct.
You're 4 moves ahead with the gaffer and the grips, and
Yep.
then I can deal with the agency and the actors. It just alleviates a whole thing, and at the end of the day, you're like, where did the time go? Man, that was fun, and I barely talked to you.
Right.
Like, to
Right.
me,
Well,
those are the
that's
best shoots. Barely,
yeah.
if I have to hold you, not you
Then I'm not doing
specifically,
my
Mark,
job.
but
But then
if
I'm
I
not
have to
doing my
hold
job.
the DP's hand, and I had a creative one time say to me, Ben Fruhoff, if he's listening, Ben Fruhoff, a big creative director from Minneapolis. We were on a Burger King shoot, and he said, "Do you work with this DP?" It was a young fella, and I said, "A couple times now." And he goes, "That's interesting. I've never seen the director have to like talk about the shot placement so much
Yeah. Right. He's a
because
technician. He's not an
yeah."
artist.
And,
Yeah.
and so I took that to heart. I was like, "Oh yeah, I would have more space in my brain." And sometimes as a director, you like that control, but I like to have a collaborator that's alleviating responsibility for me.
Yes, and
right?
at the same time, bringing things to the table that you might not have thought of, right? Everybody, like my gaffers, everybody,
Yeah.
if they're in flow state. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, and one
Um,
last point before you go into flow state. What
yeah,
disrupts flow state on set was when I asked someone, "What's the where I've seen the schedule, I've signed off on the schedule, now we're executing, we're on set." If someone says to me, like I had an AD say at one time in, I think we were in Missouri, he's like, "What do you want to do next, boss?"
wow, I bet he
And I
didn't show
go,
up the next day.
You made the schedule that I signed off on. Like I'm not even wearing a watch. I'm just assuming you're running this
Yeah,
schedule, and I'm going to do my thing." And from that moment on, I was like, "Oh, I
yeah,
have to now take on that." It's a little buzzkill for a second, but
yeah,
you adapt. My point was you get to your own flow state, but when the community and the tribe is all firing,
yeah,
on all the cylinders, then it's an elevated flow state.
for sure. It's a collective
It's
consciousness. That's
yeah.
I have a saying that I'm sure you honored. There's no I in team, and there's no you in next job, right? So you probably
Oh
said
yeah.
that to the A-Day.
Yeah. I don't know that. I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
There's no you in the next job. Have a good one.
Believe it or not, it's weird. I've had 11 years of psychedelic, journeys now and all this stuff. And but I learned more about philosophy and people and everything working on set, because as a young man, I didn't know anything. And, but I started paying attention, right? And I started seeing how there is a collective consciousness of the shoot. There's an energy. Every
Yeah.
job is different, right? I make the example of a molecule, like you're hydrogen, I'm oxygen, another hydrogen there, and together we make water, right? Or whatever, right? So it's a new organism.
I think it's
So
two hydrogens
yeah, yeah.
and
Sorry,
one water.
probably. Didn't I say two hydrogen? Anyway,
You may have. Yeah.
yeah. So, but so you have to set that stage. So I learned that a long time ago, and I weeded out lots of people because they didn't get into the flow state. Right? They
Right.
were just technicians. They were worried about, are we shooting 4K or 4.2 or like who fucking like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, can I curse? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fucking A.
okay, good. But like it's like the Navy SEAL team, when I've done these huge jobs and I don't even have walkie talkies, right? We can just look at each other because as an operator for years, I had to also DP, which means, do a lot of the coverage as I'm operating, right?
Right.
So when we get in sync, we know what the other guy has just by our placement. It's a dance. So I don't have to we never have the same shot. Somebody's getting the cutaway while somebody else is getting the close up and the reverse. And then you can make two cameras look like four because everybody's dancing and, getting the coverage and not repeating itself with an instinct of what's happening in the moment. That's reality camera stuff, which I used to poo-poo, but there's a real art to falling into sync with the actors or the actors for sure, but with
The actors.
yeah, right.
Reality TV.
But so what I do on set is, first of all, I've weeded out most of the people that don't have the instinct, but I get everybody super engaged in the creative. I learned a long time ago. I was a camera operator on my first big movie, and I said to the DP, "What do I do? What's the next step to be a DP?" And he said, "Read the script." And I said, "I already read the script." And he said, "Read it again." And then I came the next day and he goes, "Read it again." And his point was very well, and this is what lived with me, stayed with me, was know the material, know it over
Yeah.
and over and over again, know the character. So when I would shoot, I would do what I call snipe shots. I would snipe, picking off stuff. When the shot would die, I knew the character and I had my second eye open and I saw them like, twiddling their fingers or something. And I would get that because that's a character point, story point. And then I
Right.
would swing over and get something else. And the editors love that
Editors
stuff.
love it. Yeah.
Well, it was all over the place in the movie and nobody even knew I was doing it. And so I operated, I pulled my own focus. I had the dolly set backwards so I could move the camera around. So I always got a shot, but I knew the characters so well that I knew it was a story point, these little
It was
things, right?
usable. Yeah.
Well, more than usable, it was like the accents that really drove the character on the screen, and that's an instinct.
Yeah, it's funny because the collective consciousness, the group flow state, is one buzz, and as I mentioned, painting, writing, or whatever, a glass blower, something you do by yourself. That's a very fulfilling flow state. Like
Yep.
I've done a couple of documentaries, like the last feature documentary that I did. It's been a few years, but I went to the Middle East. It's around the time I met you. I think I was editing when you were coming to the office. I was by myself. I was with these comedians, but I was filming by myself with a basically like a 4K camcorder that I didn't even use the 4K, and I had a little mic set, and I was on these military bases and flying through the Middle East, and you had to be so present.
That's what I'm saying.
You have to be
Awareness. Pay
so
attention.
present
Pay
to what,
attention. Pay
and
attention. Pay
because
attention.
out of the, like you said, out of the corner of your eye, you see something, and then it becomes like a jazz solo playing back in your head while they're talking. You're thinking
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
I need a cutaway of the person in the
Yep.
corner that has no idea what's going on. I
Right.
need to
It's a
go back.
crescendo. It's a crescendo in the music.
I need to go back and get like a couple of establishing shots
Right.
because I came in here with one agenda
Right.
and the story unfolded.
That's
And
right.
this is not a scripted thing. This is like
Right. Right.
allowing the universe to hand you the story
Yes. And
by
pay
being
attention.
open and pay attention, and then a whole new storyline can
That's
unfold.
right. The real storyline.
Yeah, off of one. I remember the first feature doc. A comedian was going nuts. His name's Todd Glass. He's a famous stand-up. And we were interviewing him, and he started complaining about comedy clubs and described the perfect comedy club.
Hope you were rolling on that.
Oh, we were rolling, and he had a it was a little bit of a goosed performance because he knew he was on camera, but he went off about these comedy clubs, and then that became a story where we funded him and a night of comedy where we gave him a couple grand to deck out the club and design it his own perfect way, and it became such a funny bit, all from like,
Listening.
okay, I see
Paying
what this is.
attention.
This is
Yes.
real, what he's talking about. This
Right.
is better than any bit I could manipulate.
That's right. That's right. Well, here's the thing. It's authentic, right?
Hmm.
So this is why I love documentaries, and I do love reality documentaries, not staged reality shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But there's a real sense in just like always be rolling. So the first thing I do on set is we get the mics on. Number one, fast, and every camera operator has an earphone because I'm like, listen, the audio is more important than the video. We can splice in
Yeah.
something, but that'll drive where you're shooting, right? So pay attention. And but documentaries. Or that's it, we don't know. So this is, I think Eisenhower said it, plans are useless, but planning is essential, right?
Yeah.
So we do the storyboards, and this isn't scripted. Like, I just did well, not just a few years ago, I did The Quest, which $28 million project, and we had half reality and half movie. But the actors, even though we have lines, even though we do whatever, they're still humans, and they're still real people, and shit's going to happen that's going to be magical, and we have to capture it because they might not hit their mark or they might do whatever, but you keep going. And as a like when I was doing The Quest, we had two directors. I had there was a reality component, which was the competition, but then we had a film guy, and thank God I had my camera team there because it was kind of over his head. It
Yeah.
was this massive shoot. We had no time. We had all these actors. It was I had 9 Venice cameras. It was the biggest Venice rental at the time, and I had probably the most elite camera guys that I've worked with and trained since 2010 through reality and film. So they knew how to shoot at the speed of documentary and frame like a movie, like a cinematographer, which was unique. But they all had instinct.
Yeah.
So
For the
one stuff,
listener, the Quest was a show where, like, almost like a Survivor kind of thing with challenges set in a medieval fantasy world. So it was a reality show in like a Dungeons and Dragons
yeah,
kind of
castle.
world, but then it had cut scenes, is what they call them in video games. Like
Yes,
where it's
yeah,
just,
yeah. We had actors and
letterboxed and
yeah,
actors, and
right.
you cast kings and sorcerers and
Yeah, and
um,
it was very unique because we there was three components. There was, the movie scripted stuff, right? And then there was the reality competition, puzzle solving stuff. But then the real people would meet the actors, and then that
oh
was ad
right.
lib. So the actors had to really, they were so good. They had to be
Talk
on their
about flow
game,
state.
right?
The
And there's,
actors, it's I always admired Mark those like Tina's Tina and Tony's wedding, or those
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
that's
murder
like,
mystery
yes,
people that
exactly.
stay
Dinner
in
theater,
character for 3 hours of a
right,
dinner theater thing.
right, yeah.
That's the ultimate improv. I mean, arguably, Sacha Baron Cohen is one of the greatest actors of all time for
Well,
locking in.
they just know their character. So
Yeah.
that's actually what we labeled it. We labeled it the movie, the reality, and dinner theater, right? So the dinner theater, the kids would, which were the real people, would ask the king, "What's up with or the crown? Why do you have?" And he had to answer it. So it was
In character.
fascinating in character, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So, but obviously we had to capture that live, and the whole point of that show is they wanted it to look. It was done by the producers of Lord of the Rings and The Amazing Race,
Oh yeah. Wow,
two
that
totally
sums it up
different,
better. Yeah.
right? So, and they didn't even speak the same language, and I'm in the middle. I had done both, so. I had techno cranes out there, and the reality people are flipping out. What are you doing with this big thing? It's going to get in the way. And but when we first got there, and we started shooting these big scenes, we didn't do any blocking because they didn't the hierarchy didn't understand it really. So they were focused on one shot, and I quickly realized we were never going to make the show. So I got on my radio and I said, "Hey, everybody, grab a camera, and you guys, you put the 100 on, you put the 50 on, whatever, and get this." And they just fell into flow state. They shot around each other. The Steadicam guy would bone other people's shots, but they knew where he was going and they knew how to get it without me saying anything. And we got 9 shots, or we got all the coverage, uh, unbeknownst to who was ahead of me. It was above me, and that's what made the show. You know,
It's
so
trust is what
it
that
was
is.
instinct. Yeah, and I would look
Yeah,
at the
instinct and
monitors.
trust.
I was looking at the monitors, but these guys and I have done so much work together. There is no communication, and the fact that I have to, in fact, they always bring something way better to the table than I would, because over directing, by the time you tell somebody to do it, it's too late. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
All they need is information. Like if something they don't know, hey, they're going into another room or something, and then we would leapfrog. It's the most amazing thing to watch when it's happening because it's just beautiful. It's silent, it's precise, it's surgical, and it's magic. And because you can't get a second take, and that's what I loved about that show was just the synchronicity of the collective consciousness or whatever you want to call it. And then when we're in that state, it's a winning football team. They're not thinking, they're just doing, they're feeling. There's no crowd in the football game when they're in that zone. They're just, or a SEAL, the Navy SEALs, they just know, they
Yeah,
can count on each other.
and it goes back to what I think the Eisenhower quote you did.
Hmm.
Those Navy SEAL, like SEAL Team 6, before they got Osama bin Laden, had rehearsed every possible scenario,
But the real one,
but the real one, which had so many screw ups, right? So
right,
many things went wrong,
right, right.
but instinct,
That's
trust,
right, right.
and ultimate flow state. I can't even imagine the adrenaline that rushes through those things, but
Right.
that's what we're that's what we're coming close to. We're just not killing anybody.
Well,
Um,
yeah, but that's actually what you and I are somewhat addicted to, right?
the
Because
buzz, yeah.
right now, one of the things that led to my drinking so much is I realized I was a general without an army. I had no purpose. You know what I mean? I go from running 300 guys through the swamp or whatever show I was doing to sitting on the couch watching Netflix, after we wrapped. And then that starts spinning in your head. And this is where I was going with the mental thing of filmmakers. It's because it's such a high, and then when we're not on set, we feel like a failure. We
Oh
feel
my
like
God,
we're not
Mark,
serving, you
do you
know?
know? Do you know how many stand-up comedians? Because that was a former life of mine. you'd come off stage with the adrenaline shooting up your spine, right? Like
Yeah.
you had
It's a
you know,
high.
yeah, it's such a high
Yeah, I
that
know.
you want that free drink and then more. And
Hmm.
like in the '80s, there was so
Yeah.
much cocaine.
Yep. Yep.
Sometimes they would pay you in the cocaine
Yep.
and
I
other
was
drugs,
there. Yeah.
and then the depression that follows
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
And I mean, kind of a segue into what I like about frequency is it's the antithesis of a depressant.
Well, yes. So here's how really it works, and this is all, I don't follow data on in science and stuff because in this mystical world, it's, science and these things are systems created by humans to try to quantify, measure the infinite, right?
Yeah.
So, but science says that 80 to 97% of our worries and anxieties will never happen. Like in Buddhism, one of the headlines of Buddhism is we create our own misery, right? So, and some of this is from society, but I make the example of, well, I make the example that these worries, anxieties are like windows open on the desktop of your mind. There are all these windows open, they're all running, they're clogging the brain, they're clogging the hard drive, they're draining the battery, they're confusing you, and they're an illusion and they run us. And so we go from the peripheral vision of a wide lens, since we're talking to filmmakers, a 9.5 on 16 to a 300. We're looking at life through a straw, trying to solve these problems that are never going to happen. So
Yeah.
then the real danger, I mean, that's bad enough. So you're not present, you're not enjoying it. You can't get in flow state because you got too much air traffic in your head. There's no place to land, right? And but the body doesn't know what's going on. So the brain's releasing adrenaline, cortisol. It thinks it's being chased by a bear, right? And we do this for decades, and our body is, I mean, we die of a heart attack. That's created by stress. What the fuck is stress? Like I tell people, stress is an opinion,
A lot of
right?
stress is imaginary.
Well, it all is. There is no such thing as stress.
It's
That's an opinion. It's an opinion.
it's
It
weird. I
is.
have people in my life that will say, "Well, what if this happens? What if that happens?"
Right, right,
And I'll
right, right.
go, "But what if it doesn't?"
Right. Well, we
And
don't. This is the training. This is the
yeah.
training. But what
So
microdosing oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but so mushrooms in general, what they're doing is they're stopping the ego. They shut the ego down, right? They shut down these thoughts. So microdosing is an imperceptible amount. We'll talk about that since we're getting into it.
Yeah.
So there's three main categories of dosing. There's the micro, which is minimal as it's described, and then on the other end there's the macro, which is what Terence McKenna referred to as the hero's dose, and that's designed to completely kill the ego for a few hours so that you can
Yeah.
find what's really going on, not what the ego's telling you. And then in the middle, I call it the fun zone, which is where we go, you feel it a little bit,
The
but
fun
you're not
zone.
but you're not tripping. Social dosing,
Yeah.
right? So microdosing goes in and starts shutting these windows down, right? So it works on a subtractive process. So if I said to you, Jordan, who would you be if you didn't have any worry, right? So unlike antidepressants, which are drugging you and rewiring your brain to be a zombie and not feel anything, this is just putting you back in you. So when we
Yeah.
stop thought, we become creative. When you
I know
stop
who I'd
thought,
be.
yeah, yeah. Well, I
I'd be
mean, you
Ginger
look
from
at
Gilligan's Island. That's my
you're
dream.
Ginger. No, man, I'm Marianne.
Well, you look like a Mary. I mean,
No,
you give
Marianne,
off the
man, are you
vibe of
kidding me?
Mary.
The
She
the
gets
like
shit
the
done. The
blue
banana
jean
pies.
the blue jean cutoffs. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
it's the tooth thing. Yeah. So you're a
So
ginger. I
the
didn't know. I didn't. That's
yeah,
an interest. That's an interesting psychology thing. Okay,
yeah. All as a kid. Um,
ginger. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that it's just putting you like when we're a kid, we haven't been like you come into this world pure happy, pure joy,
sure.
right? We're taught racism, we're taught hate, we're taught judgment, we're taught all these things. So what we're doing here is just removing like everybody's searching for happiness. I'm like, stop searching. That's your foundation.
Right.
Like,
Go back to it.
so well, just get rid of the shit that's unhappy. It's all
Hmm.
programming from society or whatever. And then, after we do these practices for a while, combined with a physical routine or whatever, we start to rewire the brain differently. So like I run around, dude, I'm doing the craziest shit that would freak everybody out. Everybody, the former me would be paralyzed.
Such as
We call it I mean, I'm running a very questionable business, with really not much capital every day. But I know that fear, well, I use a lot of my film training. I know fear and worry will never solve a problem, right? So I've been practicing, when these thoughts of doubt, these thoughts of the imposter syndrome come in, I push them out. And after a while of doing that, they stop coming in. And actually, what's weird is the voices or the thoughts that come in now are more of ones of encouragement. And I was
Hmm.
like, where'd that come from? And I'm like, well, maybe I'm changing the radio station. But see, this is once we get into the calm flow state, we take away this illusionary worries that are not ours. Most of them come from society, right? And we stop doing that. We not only do we live in the present, we live in bliss, but then the body like just relaxes and you
Yeah.
start to heal. You can't heal from a chaotic mind ever.
You're changing the frequency.
Well, yeah, I just came back from biohackers world, and which biohacking is one of the fastest growing, I guess, markets of health, and it's just alternative ways to heal yourself without pharmaceuticals and super high tech stuff. And we went there, and I was a keynote speaker, and they're like, "Well, talk about biohacking." Well, we're biohacking the mind. That's the ultimate biohacking. Then the physical goes underneath that, right? Because our thoughts heal us or harm us. I mean, if you don't think the mind is powerful, I tell people you think of masturbation. Like you can think of a thought and have a huge physical response to
Yeah.
just thought. So imagine if you change your thought, right?
Well, in the Vedanta treatise, if you know that philosophy, that's sort of the bedrock of Buddhism and Hinduism,
Hmm.
and
The
you
original.
know the original, even influencing your Joseph Campbells and
Oh yeah, that's
Alex
super
Huxley,
ancient
Alan
stuff.
Watts. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just dipping my toe into that.
yeah. Thank God for the internet, right?
I actually have the physical book, one of the few
Wow,
books
we
that I
just
ever
said you
read.
didn't read.
I
How many
know, but
page?
this
How
one,
many
I
pages did you make it?
I got up very early and I read about 5 pages today, which to me, because it's not fiction, it's not a biography, it's an introduction, right? But today's reading in those pages was the child. What you said, the child is born into the world just free of
Yeah,
worry and
yeah,
guilt and
yeah,
stress,
yeah.
and to strive to be childlike
That's right. That's what spirituality is.
is
Spirituality
where.
is two things. It's becoming a child again and to prepare us for death. That's it,
Mhm.
right? So, yeah,
And that's what we want to get out of like circling back to the work. You want to approach every job with a childlike wonder to say what if,
right,
as
right.
opposed to worry. Yes, you have to worry what the client likes, or if I'm pitching an ad agency, what work have they done up to this point. But I always want to bring in, or at least before I pitch on a job, have a sense of childlike wonder to see if I can have a new idea to plus it.
Yes, yes. And make it
And
simple. And that makes it simple too,
yeah, and sometimes simplifying it. I remember
for sure.
back in the day, some of the best directors I would learn from were always like, strip away all the crap. What's the core
Yes, yes, yes,
idea in this
yes, yes, yes,
24 seconds with a
yes.
6 second product shot? The other thing in the
That's right.
Vedanta
Just say, just do it.
the other thing I was just toss in that I'm reading about is, and I'm learning from a couple of people in this regard. If you don't think the mind is powerful, think about when you have that dream and you're running from someone, or you're in a
Yeah, you're gonna
sweat,
sweat and all that.
and you
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wake up like, huh, huh. So your
yeah, yeah, yeah,
body,
yeah,
not unlike masturbation, was manipulated
yeah, 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 yeah,
by
yeah.
this vision,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
Like
yes, yes.
I
It's
woke
not
up
real.
the other I woke up the other day and I had a whole conversation in my subconscious, in my dream state, that I
Hmm.
remembered. I don't remember all my dreams, but I was like, wow, that whole thing I was thinking about the last couple of days carried over into my dream
Yes.
and was a very real experience. So some would say,
Yeah, well,
why
what
isn't
is
that,
reality?
which is real, and which is not? Perhaps the waking state is really the dream
Not.
in the larger sense.
Yes,
It's hard for
yes,
people to understand this
yes.
concept, that the dream state is actually the reality. Like,
Yes.
the best example is waking up when Neo wakes up out of the Matrix.
Right. No, no, all of it. And it goes back to ancient Hermeticism. Everything is mind. The universe is mental.
Yeah.
Now quantum, I mean, I don't know how much time we get here, but quantum mechanics and physics is showing that that's true because the observer effect, right? When we observe a particle, it goes one way. When we don't observe it, it goes into infinite potentials, right? So then when we reobserve it, right? So the ancients would say there is no future. We're actually creating it as we go, like instantaneously.
Yeah.
Like right now, you and I are on and off millions of times a second. We're here, we're not here, we're here, we're not here. Millions so much so fast that we can't perceive it, right? But it's still happening. So this is what we do when you get into these psychedelic realms is you're getting out of this one tiny 1 billionth of light wave sensory perception of that we can see, and you're
You can
getting out
throw
of
the egg
that.
through the propeller.
That's right. And you see the reality. My first journey when I did ayahuasca, I came back. I was like, what is happening? And the shaman said, welcome back to the hallucination, because it is. And when you go in these states more and more, you become more and more aware. And here at Frequency, we're not like, yeah, we're selling mushrooms and doing ceremonies and stuff. But what I'm saying to people is that's just a mechanism, that's a medicine to get you into these states.
Right.
But what we're wanting to do is wake you up and create awareness. And once everybody's aware, and there's no end to awareness, once you start to be able to heal yourself, you start to be able to see what's happening. You start to see the agenda of your friends, your agenda of the government. Everybody has this agenda, and this is where, and that's fine. But like the ancient philosophy that you're reading, it's also tied to Taoism, which is based in
Sure.
nature, right? There are predators, right? So we cannot live in love and light. That's like not true. That's then you're bait, right? So the taller the tree, the stronger the wind, right? The brighter the light, the darker the shadows, they say. So as you rise in vibration and awareness, be aware there's going to be the mind predators. And what's happening in society right now is we're the real disease is mental weakness. Our minds are so weak. We believe everything. And when you get a thought in, then you believe it is to be real, you regurgitate it, and then it becomes who you are.
Sure,
Right. And
that's
this is how,
MAGA, right?
that's right.
They just repeat the same things over and over again, and a lot of those people, um, I shouldn't say those people. They're people. I'm trying to
Yeah.
evolve.
Well, they're just not necessarily awake.
They're not
But
watching the
you
other
know,
side.
yeah. I mean, the yogis say, the ancients, this is why I studied, vast
Yeah.
amounts of Kundalini and Buddhism and whatever. But we're in a trance, right? We're in a trance. The brain has to have an operating system, right? So we're in a trance. People don't know they're in a trance, but the yogis are very, very aware. They go, be aware that you're in a trance, but know which trance you're in, right? You get to pick it, which is a frequency, right? So let's go back to filmmaking. There is no such thing as a moving image, right? It's a series of still images put together. Well,
Right.
the brain, right at what, 24 frames a second, the brain just fills in the blanks. Well, it's creating it's creating an illusion. It's creating a trance. It's a hypnosis, right? And then it puts the brain in what we call theta. And when the brain's in theta state, it's easily programmed. This is how Hitler almost took over the world. He had the newest technology of film. He made propaganda film. Nobody knew what film was. He showed it. They perceived that as reality. That was real. It was programmed into their brain, right? So this is why it's called television programming, right? So you just have to be aware that these things are there, but they're not, we're putting people into a trance. Comedy is a great example.
Hmm.
When you get a Bill Burr or somebody up there, he's got you. When they put you in a hypnotic trance, he can say anything and people will
Sure.
laugh. If there's a bad comedian, he can't get you into the trance. He's trying to, but this is why we stare at Prince or Michael Jackson. You can't take your eyes off of them because they got you. You're in a hypnotic trance, right?
Now, Mark, I gotta wrap up. This time has
Oh
flown
shit.
by. We could go on for hours, but tell people when they click on your name, when they click on your name in the show notes on Apple Podcasts or JordanBrady.com, where is that going to take them?
Well, it depends who they are.
Yeah,
Can we
we're,
can
we
we
can.
put a Brady 20 code
Yeah, we can
um,
put a Brady 20 code there.
or something? Well, we have two things going on. One is the products. So in the products, we have consumer products. We have the microdose products. We have the social dose. We have teas and cacao cubes and stuff. And then we have above above the line a company called the Frequency House, which is what's behind me, which is out in Topanga, which is where
I got to
you
make
know
it out there.
yeah, dude, you got
Yeah.
to. By the way, I have three Sony cameras, live stream capability, everything. A lot of people use this for production location, content creation. But anyway, so we do medicine ceremonies here. We have many facilitators. We do sound. We have different breathwork teachers. They all come in. We have events. We had a movie premiere
Well,
for
why don't I put two links?
yes, yes, yeah. There you
Two
go.
links, and
Yeah.
people can check it out. And I will give the special code. I will have given it in the opening of the show that I recorded without you for the podcast panel.
Did you do a affiliate thing yet?
I do have an affiliate thing,
You got to
so
set
I will.
yourself up.
I'll dig that up. No,
Put
I
that
have.
one.
I have
Yeah.
that link. But I have to jump
Yeah.
for a call here, Mark. This has been
Yeah.
incredible. We're gonna have to do a part two and follow up on
Yep.
more because I feel like we
Totally.
barely touch frequency, but listeners, you're going to check it out. You're going to love it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just in
Nope.
time for the
I
wind to mess
appreciate it,
up your
buddy.
hair. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, it's right.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.